Here we are going to talk about the server-side and client-side mashups. So earlier we introduced the idea and also the origin of the mashup and how it was applied in the technology field. And here we are going to talk about the architecture of mashup application. So it mainly can be separated categorized into two types or two categories. The first one is the server-side mashup. So actually it's quite easy to understand. So basically that means the mashup happens in the server on the server side. So for example, if an application that is going to utilize the resources from the web resource 1 and web resource 2. So this type of application architecture is kind of like you will have a mashup server, and that mashup server will retrieve the information from different resources, and then it will like organize or process those information and prepare those the new information or new types of result, and then finally support that information to the client side. So, for example, you could retrieve some of the, for example, satellite images from resource 1, some of institute sensor observations from another source of data, and then the mashup server will collect those information and then do some processing. And then after it performs some processing, and then you can store those information in the database, and then you can create a web client to access this mashup server, and then to serve as the you can say kind of like the presentation tier in the 3-tier architecture. So that is the server-side mashup. And here is the client-side mashup. So the same thing is we will try to mash up the resources from different source. For example, web resource 1, web resource 2. So the idea for the client-side mashup, according to its name, is actually very straightforward as well. Basically, that means we are going to perform the mashup on the client side. So, but however, even if it's a client-side mashup, and sometimes you still need to have your own server or service to support some additional information. For example, even if you are retrieving the information from different sources and then create an application, but however, you may need to like have your own server to store the user information, some comments or some ratings or some newly processed results. So those are the possibility of having a mashup server. So, as I mentioned, the client-side mashup performs the mashup on the client side. So, the client side will be in charge of retrieving the information from different web resources, and then it also needs to communicate with the. It also could communicate with the mashup server to have more. You can say some additional and also specifically designed functionality, and that is supported by the mashup server. So according to the name over here, basically that means everything happens on the client side. So these two, the server-side mashup and also client-side mashup, are kind of like the most general and also common way of creating a mashup application, and it actually also depends on where you perform the mashup and where you retrieve the information, and it affects different aspects of the application, or you can say different aspect of quality of the service or the application. So in the course, actually, in the class, actually, we are going to have a more in-depth discussion to the server-side mashup and client-side mashup. So please think about the advantage and disadvantage of the server-side mashup and client-side mashup. So you can think about it from the you can say performance point of view, or requirements point of view, or loading point of view. Also you can think about it from the communication model point of view as well. So there are many things to be discussed in terms of these two types of mashup application. You can also kind of try to remember what we discussed when we were in the unit 2, the architecture unit, and those discussion could be helpful for you to think about these two types of architecture.